Very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you're having a good start to the week and you had a pleasant weekend. Well, it looks like we might finally have a few deals coming through. And the first one, of course, being Edson Alvarez. And I'm going to talk about the transfers in a little while. But before I do that, let's go into the chat because I can already see something like 100 odd messages. So let's go right up to the top and say hello to everyone. Good evening to you, John. Still, it's 7 p.m. and still no signings. Have faith. But we have news of an improved bid for Slabhead. I thought Moyes was shut down for transfers. Clearly not. I'm going to talk about Maguire in the transfer part of the show. Good evening to you, John. Rumours of Moyes is still being replaced on Wednesday, but not confirmed either way because I've been told they're not true. Maybe Saturday's game was a straw that broke the camel's back. Let me just clear that up because I did ask about that. I said, you know, there are stories that are coming out there. And is it true? I mean, are we getting rid of Moyes or not? And I was told that take no notice of the deals. Take no notice of the pre-season friendlies, but judge him on the results in the league. So I guess you can start judging him from this Saturday when we play Bournemouth in the Premier League. So excuse me, I've just got to send one message. Right. So I've been told, no, wherever these rumours are coming from, apparently they've been discounted. Apparently that's not going to happen. And we got to judge David Moyes on what happens in the league. So let's see what happens from Saturday onwards. I'm going to talk about the game in a minute as well. That we played at the weekend. It was pretty poor, wasn't it? Good evening to you, Brian. I hope you're well. Hearing Moyes being replaced. Yep, just answered that. Good evening to you, Anthony. Walk away from Maguire and JWP. I was led to believe that ex-employees said that Steiden had blocked the transfer of both players. The trouble is, you've got to be careful, like I keep saying, you know, and I think I did an apology video last week, didn't I? Where we keep being given information about things that are happening, and then and then they get and then they don't materialize. And this whole thing about JWP being blocked by Steiden, I think that, like I said in one of last week's shows, there was probably a conversation. There was probably some maybe Sullivan asked Steiden his opinion on the player, and maybe Steiden said, look, we can get another player for a similar sort of price or cheaper who's going to fit the build much better. Now, I don't think it's over with JWP, but it'd be interesting what happens with some of the transfers that we're linked to at the moment, especially with the double offer that was made tonight for Maguire and McTominay, with Alvarez coming in as well. Are we still going to go for Ward-Prowse, or is he going to be a player that maybe we drop interest in? Mark, good evening to you. I would like to think that we have Potter lined up to take over from Moyes before the season starts, but not because I really want him, but just to wave goodbye to Moyes. Like I said, I've been told quite categorically, judge, and this is not me saying it, this is coming from the club, judge him on his on what happens in the league and not what happens in pre-season. So let's see how it goes. I could be wrong. It could be Wednesday morning. We might hear that Moyes is gone. I kind of don't think so, to be honest with you. Good evening to you, Mark. How are you? Not Slabhead. They're offloading him because he's rubbish. Well, I've got a theory on that. I've kind of said it before, so I'll come to that during the transfer part of the show. Foxes, good evening to you. 6-1 Moyes goes. Well, it's big news, isn't it? Foxes again, bringing in Alvarez won't change the style of Moyes football, though. No, it won't. It'll kind of like, in a way, it'll kind of solidify it in some way because he's defensive midfielder, and we know Moyes likes defending. So if anything, he'll probably... Lynn, can I have the lights, please? Thank you. So yeah, if anything, it'll probably make it more defensive minded if we could possibly get that way. Oliver, Alvarez won't get game time if Moyes is still in charge. He'll need 6 months to get used to the Premier League, unlike any other foreign import signed by any other club. I think after Saturday's performance, thank you. I think after Saturday's performance against Bayer Leverkusen, I think he's a shoo-in almost straight away. Excuse me 1 second, people. Just going to put a bit more light up here. That's a start. So yes, I think Oliver is going to get game time sooner rather than later. Chris Simpson, Jonathan Tarr in over Slabhead any day. Tar was good, wasn't he? And he's a player that we've been linked to in the past, but it never materialised. But he showed, how decent a defender he was. To be quite honest with you, at the weekend, very decent player. I'd have Tar, 27 years of age, former German international. I don't think he's been in the German team of late, but a decent player. And yes, of course, as for us fans, know better, don't we? I don't mean that, facetiously, but we would have Tar. But it seems Moyes is determined on Maguire, and the bid's gone in tonight. Chris, good evening to you. For the love of God, please let Moyes' replacements rumour be true. Can't say that they are, I'm afraid, like I said earlier on. John again. We're meant to be in for Slabhead for 60 mil. He's not worth that, and he's 200. I'll come to that. So if I see any more comments on transfers, please forgive me for ignoring them, because I will talk about transfers later on in the show. Balong, good evening to you. I'd rather have Gary Breen or Rigobert Song than Slabhead. I don't even know if they're about transfers, so I'm reading them anyway. Andy, good evening all. Hope all is well. Please let the rumour is going on Wednesday be bang on. Let this dark black cloud above our heads be on its way to some other poor club. As I keep saying, unfortunately, it doesn't look like Moyes is going anywhere. I could be wrong. Like I said, but from what I've been told tonight is that Sullivan has said, not true. It's not happening. We're not looking to get rid of the manager. We're not going to judge him on pre-season friendlies. If that was the case, he would have gone last summer. So judge him on the games in the Premier League. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the Premier League. Last season, we beat Bournemouth away from home 4-0. Will we get anything like that kind of result? Don't know. Rhonda and Tony, good evening to you. If Maguire does come, Moyes will play back three, Maguire, Zuma and Agurd, or will Agurd be left back? Good shout. Didn't think of that. Considering it looks like Creswell's going. Good shout. Usual. Good evening to you. 30 mil for a 29-year-old fridge, only at West Ham. Everyone's saying, please, not Slabhead, Moyes out, etc., etc. Brian, praying that Maguire doesn't accept the salary offer of 100 grand a week, currently on 190. Robbery. It's a lot of money. Daniela, see, I can't get away with putting the comments up about transfers, so forgive me. Daniela, just on the United stand at the end of the chat, I come through. Man United rejected our offer for Scott M. They want 45 million. They can go and do one. Yeah, I agree. It ain't going to happen at that sort of money. Bernie, good evening to you. Always good to see you. Good to see you on here too, please, mate. But please say this is going to happen, as I'm worn out with the transfer stories and rumor that turn out to be from another planet. Well, the story tonight is that there's a £60 million double bid in for Maguire and McTominay, which will happen soon after the Alvarez deal. Now, as Daniel has just said, it may be turned down. It may not happen. But I think what we're trying to do is get in a double bid in, but it looks like he's going to want at least one of them. And it could be Maguire. Did anyone see that idiot Paul Merson and JWP? He should come to us, because we're not finishing in the top six. He won't get an England call-up. He should stay where he is. Not to come to us because we're not finishing in the top six. How bizarre. Good evening to you, Lord Patrick. I hope you're well. Taking a break from building an IKEA wardrobe to watch tonight's show. I sympathise with you. I put together a Wayfair, not that I'm promoting them. I put together a Wayfair bedroom set a couple of weeks ago. Effing nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Never again. I bet you'll have better luck with your IKEA one. Flimmer, I bet you'll be late still. Maybe. Give us some good news about Moyes. Sorry. Heard he will go by Wednesday. I'm afraid not. James, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Right, let's scroll down so I can keep up as much as I can. Mark, should we look for a striker on loan to replace Scamacca, given our woeful choice of strikers over the last 10 years? A loan deal would be good, but I am going to talk about what sort of striker are we going to look for now that Scamacca's gone. It's going to be very strange. John, good evening to you. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. I hope you enjoy it. I don't know if I'm going to bring you lot any good news, but I hope you enjoy the show anyway. Good evening, Ed. I bet Stell's poured himself a large rum and coke. I haven't tonight. I haven't. Been away all weekend, taking it easy today. Aaron, mixed emotions today. Happy signing Alvarez, still not over the line. Disappointed seeing Scamacca go. It is what it is. And pissed we're bidding for Maguire. I've got, I'm going to talk about it later. Good evening, Hammerette. I hope you're well. Bit of excitement today with Alvarez almost here. It is almost. He hasn't had his medical yet. He hasn't signed that contract yet. Andrew, good evening to you. The Rice money going to be pissed down the drain by moyes, Maguire and McTominay. Madness. It ain't. Look, it could be worse, to be honest. But I'll get to that in a minute. Jason, never a dull moment at West Ham. You tell me about it. Good evening, Sharky. Good evening, Martin. I hope you're well. Good evening, James. I hope you're well. Good evening, Adrian. Being linked to the lies of Maguire, McTominay and Ward-Prowse shows the continued lack of foresight of the club. We're going to spend our money and still need to replace most of the squad in 18 months. That is a really good point. You know, that's the concern. Maybe not on McTominay. McTominay's 26 years of age. So, you know, he's got a good few years. But Maguire at 30 and JWP at 28, you know, to be honest, I'd rather not. One of them at least, but not both of them. Matt, it's pathetic that we try to go for quality players or even world class, but never use them correctly, nor do we keep them happy at the club. What's the point of the London Stadium? Given that, let's go into the first part of the show. And that, of course, is all about Gianluca Scamacca. He's gone. Barely a year after joining West Ham United, joins Atalanta for a fee of about £22.5 million with a 4.3 million in add-ons. And I've been told that the add-ons are kind of like, you know, should be achievable, but may not happen. So it may only be a £22 million deal. Look, we paid 30 million and 500,000 for him plus add-ons. So at this moment in time, we're 8 million down on the deal. If any of the add-ons materialize, then of course, you know, that will sort of eat away at the 8 million loss. On top of that, we put in a 10% clause, sell-on clause as well. But as you know, sell-on clauses only happen if a player is sold for a profit. If a player is sold for a profit, then yes, absolutely, we'll get some more money back. But how much of that will we claw back? If we sold him for 22.5 million, what's the best that we can do? If he smashes it, and then ends up going to, I don't know, PSG or Real Madrid or one of these big clubs, or even comes back to the Premier League, another club, you know, for 30, 35, 40, 45 million pounds, then yeah, we're quids in, 10% of that profit. But otherwise, no. So at this moment in time, we've lost about 8 million on the deal. And you know what? It is, you could have seen this coming, couldn't you? Because I remember when we were linked to him this time last summer, I remember doing looking at the scouting reports and reading up all the reviews about the player, etc., etc. And I kept saying to myself, this player's an awful lot more like Sebastian Haller than he is like Mikel Antonio. And I kind of, you kind of end up convincing yourself that something miraculous is going to happen, that maybe David Moyes is going to change the formation. Maybe he's going to change the whole setup in order to accommodate Scamacca. And that apparently we were told at the beginning of the season. Do you remember Antonio speaking on that podcast, you know, saying we played a different way, etc., and it didn't work, so we reverted to type? I just can't remember when we played a different system, to be quite honest with you. I'm not so sure where it was. Maybe it was in the early parts of the Europa Conference League when we were kind of playing a little more freely. But certainly in the Premier League, it didn't look like we were playing any different type of system. And then, of course, you know, Antonio said, you know, and it was even Warburton said, we tried a different system. I can't for the life of me remember what we tried. But anyway, it didn't work. Whatever happened, it didn't work. And Scamacca was left isolated. And you could have seen it coming. You could have seen this happening, you know, from last summer, you know, because like I said, when we were looking at the scouting reports, when we were looking at the style of the player, the way he plays, you know, I kept saying, you know, he feeds off other players and he gets other players involved. And it's all about, you know, playing around him and making sure that he's involved and not isolated. What did we do? He was isolated. Of course, he was going to bloody well fail. But didn't we see, you know, what happened to the scouting system to bring Scamacca in? What was it they saw that every fan didn't see? You know, you could have seen it. You could have seen it was another Haller disaster class on its way. And it's such a shame because you know what's going to happen, don't you? Just like Haller. Now, what was interesting is, you know, I remember all the fans at the time when Haller was leaving. And I remember myself and people like Ken Irons talking about you feed Haller and he'll score, etc., etc. He went on to demonstrate what a decent striker he is, not only at Ajax, but also in the Champions League for Ajax. And now, after his illness, in Bundesliga as well. He's not a shit striker, is he? And you can see the same thing happening with Scamacca. He's back in Italy. He's back on home turf. He's going to probably do really well at Atalanta. He'll probably be their top goal scorer. He'll probably get them a dozen goals, etc., etc. And then there will be interest from the likes of the bigger Italian teams or a team around Europe. And he may well go, not end of next season, but he may well go for a bigger price soon. You could have seen it coming. Look, apparently we've got interest in Chelsea's Armando Broja and Bournemouth's Dominic Solanke. There's been a few stories about that, but nothing really to sort of like say we're really in for either of those players. Look, for me, I've said it before. I know a lot of fans like Broja. For me, I don't think he's that good. I think he's the sort of player that when he was at Southampton, he had a very good first half of the season. He fell away in the second half of the season. I know he had a really bad injury last season that kept him out for the whole season, more or less. Solanke, is he the sort of player that we need? I'm not so sure. I don't know. And why would Bournemouth want to give away their striker to help boost us? So I can't really see that one happening either. Is there anyone else? There's Jonathan David, apparently from Lille. Apparently we're interested. But as I said before, it probably wouldn't surprise me if we don't get another striker in. And Moyes will make do with what he's got, using wide players to play up front. Bowen, it's almost written, isn't it, that Bowen could be the next, wide player who becomes a striker. Who knows? Let's see. But what it is, what we are certain of is Michail Antonio, at 33 years of age, is going to be leading the line on Saturday. You could have seen that coming, couldn't you? Anyway, next part of the show. Let's talk a little bit about the game. Good grief. A Bayer masterclass. As I said in a tweet at the weekend, I was away at the weekend, but I was watching it on my phone as best I could. I didn't get a very good reception, but I kind of, you saw the 4-0 headline. That told you almost everything you needed to know. A team that Tim Steidten built against the team that Tim Steidten wants to build. And what a difference. What a world of difference. And again, all right, it was only a friendly. And I know people keep saying you can't see much into a friendly. Well, can you not? Because for me, that was the last game of pre-season for us to get our shit together, for us to demonstrate what we're going to be doing moving forward into the league on Saturday against Bournemouth. And it became very predictable, very much the same. I felt sorry for him, Mbama. I'm great that he got a start, but leading the line on his own with backs against the walls, etc. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It has never worked for us to be defending a 0-0. We would like to, 2-0 down, but what? In 15 minutes, 20 minutes or whatever it was, 3-0 down by half time. And then, all right, we conceded only one goal in the second half, but it was a disaster. It was lackluster. It was uninspiring. It was much the same from where we left off last season. Our ball passing, our movement was non-existent. Whereas Steiden's team that he built showed flair, they showed aggression, vigor, style, movement, and of course, goal scoring. And they looked like a really, really decent team. The players look wary. All right, apparently there's an excuse that the flight got cancelled or something like that. It's a chartered flight. How can they get? I don't know. But apparently there was an excuse that a flight got cancelled. But I don't think that's an excuse, really, to be honest with you. Either way, it was a poor performance. And like I said, people are talking about Moyes going, etc. And the club have said, judge him for what's happening in the league. So let's see what happens. The thing that worries me in that style of football, the thing that really, really worries me is what the flair players in our team are thinking at the moment. Players like Jared Bowen, players like Lucas Paqueta, etc. What are they thinking of? I remember last week there was something came out from TalkSport. One of the commentators on TalkSport suggested that Paqueta was unhappy, and then Paqueta wrote on his tweet, fake news. And then we find out that was done by his PR agency, etc. And Paqueta didn't exactly sort of consent to that happening. If that's true, what on earth is really going on? Is Paqueta unhappy? Could that be the sort of thing where he starts thinking, should I be here? Should I be at West Ham United? Jared Bowen, should I be here? It needs to change. And hopefully the players we get in might make a difference. But at this moment in time, I don't know. Look, We need an injection of difference. We need something in that midfield without a shadow of a doubt. We need different players in there. We need an enforcer. We need someone that's going to, make that midfield solid. But at the same time, we need an engine in there as well. And that's what I'll talk about when it comes to talking about the transfers. Right, very quickly, the academy. The fixtures for the 23-24 season have been announced. West Ham will travel to Arsenal in their first Premier League 2 game opener on Friday, the 11th of August. And then their first home game will be at Rush Green, will be against Sunderland, kickoff at 7 p.m. So good luck to them. They've got an awful lot of the under-18s that have moved up from the under-18s into the under-21s. And I really wish them well. I really wish that, they really gel. They start where they left off from the under-18s last season. It's going to be a very interesting season for the under-21s coming up. And the under-18s as well, they've got a lot of new faces as well, because they're coming up from the academy, the lower age brackets. So that's going to be an interesting campaign for them too. And they kick off their season starts on the 12th of August, where they visit Fulham at Little Heath. At Little Heath. So good luck to them as well. It's going to be really interesting to see the crop of next bunch of youngsters coming up, to see how they fare in the league as well. Right, what about some loans before I get on to transfers? Well, first of all, Kamari Swire got off to his Crawley Town career with a win. The 20-year-old came off the bench to help the side win 1-0 over Bradford City in the League Two opener. He joined Crawley a week ago, made his competitive debut on the 83rd minute when they entered into the fray. So good luck to Swire. I hope he does really, really well and comes back storming for West Ham United. Another loanee was in action as well. Freddie Potts earned his first minutes for EFL club League One side Wycombe Wanderers. The 19-year-old was included in the starting lineup, but unfortunately, they went down to a 3-0 defeat in their opening game. Christian Heggie, who's on loan at Stevenage, was on the bench against Northampton Town. And Nathan Trott, another goalie who's on loan for the second year at Visual BK, was unfortunately, they were beaten by a late goal against Silkeborg, who we played in the Europa Conference League last season. Right. And let's go into your chat before I go into comments. Say that again. Let's go into your comments before I go into the transfer stories. So let's scroll down. Hammer it. Personally, I can't see Slabbit dropping 100 grand a week to play for a club that he seems to feel is below him and to be a backup for Zuma. Good evening, Paul. I hope you're well. What was that on Saturday? Bidding for shite players, joke club. Andrew, I can't believe they are caving into Moyes' demands on transfers. He's going to be under huge pressure from the very start. Good evening to you, Steve. I hope you're well. Usual, good evening to you. Maguire and McTominay stink of desperation. What is going on? Adrian. But we have been linked with these three with multiple bids. The rest has just been links. Fofana keeps being mentioned, but we haven't made a firm bid. We haven't, because it looks like we're going for Alvarez. And that's a bit confusing, because I thought we were well in for Fofana, which is strange. Good evening to you, Ray. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Graham. Here we go. Good evening to you, Lee. I hope you're well. Aaron, good evening to you. Can't sack Stell, my entertainment on Monday night while the missus is at work. That's a bit weird, that, Aaron, but thank you for being here. Hammer it. With Alvarez coming in, we should go for a Premier League proven player as well, so not have so much dramatic bedding in period time. There could be, like I said in last week's show, there could be a mixture. There could be a mixture here of Steiden sort of links as well as David Moyes links. A mixture is okay, so long as it's the right mix. Matt, 60 million for the pair at United. Seriously, Moyes needs to go as soon as possible. Ridiculous that they are just even our targets. Gallagher, John David, Sangare, JWP Barnes, this lad from Ajax are better than McTominay. Possibly, I would say Sangare is someone that we should definitely be looking for. Gallagher, clearly, we tried. He didn't want to come to West Ham. JWP, yeah, set pieces, I guess, but he doesn't have an engine on him. And Barnes, I don't know what happened there. Apparently, he was going to be our main target for the season at the beginning of the transfer window, and that didn't materialise. Good evening, Garino. I hope you're well. Shaky. I'd like to see Tar, but after him playing against us on Saturday, he may have other ideas. Vinay, If Moyes stays all season, then West Ham will be relegated with no coaches. I think there are at least 4 worse teams than us, to be honest with you. But having to rely on worse teams to stay up is going to be quite awful, isn't it, really? Adrian, can just see Paqueta spend half the season standing gesticulating at other players to do something to help him. That's the bit that worries me, to be quite honest with you. Rob C, good evening to you. Fofana is what we need. Not sure why we're not pursuing it. Neither am I. It seems really, really weird, to be quite honest with you, that we're not going for him. But I guess they must be thinking that Alvarez is going to be good enough. Graham, wow, still take... Oh, I've just noticed what time that was, half an hour ago. So I'm going to have to scroll down. Actually, here we go. Good evening to you, Greg. Thank you for joining. Andrew, Tim Steiden is obviously not in control of transfers if we end up with Ward-Prowse, McTominay and Maguire. But then who's signing as Alvarez? Because what's weird is actually last week, hang on, let me think about this. Last week, I did say apparently we approached Alvarez as early as the day after the final of the Europa Conference League. So would he have been a Steiden target? Maybe. Steiden, I guess, could have still been identifying players for us while we were waiting for him to start working for West Ham. Good evening, Jason. I hope you're well. Good evening, Kenneth. Hope you're well. I'm very well. Alvarez is a good player. Hope we get him. Fingers crossed. It looks like it's happening. Andy, but then again, he ain't signed that contract. Good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening, Montana. Now Gary O'Neill is about to get snapped up by Wolves. Interesting. How will he do there? That'd be interesting. Breaking news, Sullivan appoints Stevie Wonder Aaron as our new head scout. He's got an eye for talent. Still, who do you ask? Have you got an oracle in your bedroom? Who do I ask? People. Huge. Good evening to you. I think we need some cheering up. Hard to believe we won a European trophy just a couple of weeks ago. It feels like a lifetime ago. 8 Barley, good evening to you. 3 games to save his job. Where have we heard that before? I had a conversation with Sean earlier on, and I said, what's going on? Do you think he's going, etc.? Sean said, look, I think I'll give him till Christmas. I said, I think I'll give him to October. But when he explains, Sullivan isn't the sort of man that sacks managers. And if you look at his history, he'll wait for an ideal gap. If he needs to get rid of, you look at Pellegrini, for example, he waited until December until Pellegrini went. And if you look at that and you think about logically, it's possible. It's possible that what West Ham United will do, or what David Sullivan will do is probably give Moyes until Christmas to get it right. Will he get it right? I guess we'll start knowing from next week. Good evening to you, old man. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, NWO. How are you? Good evening to you, Keith. I hope you're well. And you are as well. Black Country, I hope you're well. Stell's under my thumb, not mine. She's watching, I don't know what she's watching, something. Damien, good evening to you. All hammers, I've been buzzing all day for Alvarez, but the rejected bid for Slabhead and McTominay got me happier and made me, well, has it been, because I'm reading conflicting stories. I checked just before I came online, and apparently they're looking at potentially saying no to McTominay for 30 million, but not necessarily no to Maguire. That's my understanding, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Good evening to you for Andy. I hope that Hammers don't get Maguire. He's a liability. I wonder if he would up his game at West Ham. Maybe I'm being the eternal optimist. Who knows? Montana, we don't need Maguire. Why is Moyes so blinded with Premier League proven players? He should coach the players more. Good evening to you, Peter. Spurs after Ward-Prowse and prepared to pay 35 million. Is that a bad thing? A lot of people said that they don't want Ward-Prowse, so now we worried that we might lose him to Spurs. I don't know. Last week we were saying 25 million was good enough for Ward-Prowse, and now we're worried that 35 million that Spurs is going to get him. I don't know. What's happening with Fofana? I don't know is the answer to that. At the end of last week, I was told that we're going in for a bid for him. It's all gone a little bit quiet. Maybe there's something brewing under, would Fofana and Alvarez be decent? That might happen. Xabi Alonso has signed an extended contract, Kenneth, with Bayer Leverkusen, is what I understand. Peter, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. John, JWP will hot up with Spurs now involved Bidding war will suit the Saints. It will suit the Saints. But a lot of, I don't think he's, with the greatest of respect to him, I don't think we should pay much more than around 30 million for him. Maybe it is the right thing to do when we're being, when we're told, oh, this player, if you want this player, you've got to pay this much money, etc., etc. Maybe we should walk away. I mean, we've often been accused of overpaying for players in the past. Maybe this is the time to say this is as far as we go. Is that a bad thing sometimes? Lee, good evening to you. Hope we're having a great night. West Ham is massive everywhere we go. We weren't so massive at the weekend, but I hope you're well, Lee. Philip, I wonder if Moyes is aware of the massive amount of negative. Oh, he must be, without a shadow of a doubt. He absolutely must be. I mean, you can't ignore it, can you? I know apparently Moyes doesn't do social media, but it must seep through without a doubt. Hit the like button. Thank you, Lee. If you're new to the channel, please do hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. That would be absolutely wonderful and would help the channel. That would be great. Vinay, Leverkusen not Premier League proven, but they dismantled Moyes United. So true. Obsidian, good evening to you. If Maguire and McTominay are real targets, then Moyes isn't going. No, I don't think he is. Peter, I judged him last season. He's guilty of being Funky T, good evening to you. We are our own worst enemy, believing and continuing the rumour mill on social media. Why would any player want to come to the club with the shambles going on at West Ham? And I kind of alluded to this last week, ironically. It's not perfect at West Ham United. Let's not try and sugarcoat it in any way. It's not. But I just wonder, all this stuff that's going on about there is infighting. And I mean, someone apparently said that Steiden and Moyes were literally physically fighting each other. Do you honestly believe that? I mean, it's almost done to actually create this mindset that it's a bigger shambles than it is. Look, it's not right that we shouldn't have gone 6 weeks into the transfer window open, or 7 weeks, whatever it is, without signing a player. It's that bit's wrong. Absolutely. Are we at loggerheads with signings? It looks like we are. When you look at the different types of players that we're after, this scattergun approach has only been created because Moyes wants certain targets and Steiden apparently wants different targets, etc. But all the stuff that goes on, it's like continuous, like this daily diatribe of bad news, bad news, bad news. I just wonder how much of it is over exaggerated, in order to wind this up, as if we need winding up as well. So I do say it, and I even apologized in a video I did last week because I was convinced that we would get, I can't remember what player it was. It was about Borges, the young Man City player that's gone to Ajax. And I felt stupid. I felt like I had to apologize, for saying, we're getting him. And now, he's gone, and we should stop believing all this stuff. Sean, good evening to you. Breaking news, Maguire is shaky. So we can judge Moyes on the league. Does that mean he won't harp on about our first cup in 43 years? It won't stop him. Without a shadow of a doubt, it won't stop him. Jason, I think Maguire would be a very smart move. Zuma injured a lot. Moyes plays the way he will thrive. A leader we need since losing Deck and Noble, plus a danger in the box. No pressure like United. That's a good point. That's the other side of the coin, isn't it? And that's why I love these shows, because people do have a difference of opinion, and we have their opinions, and I can see the legitimacy of that. And Maguire could be a smart move. Zuma does get injured an awful lot, and the type of football that we play, Maguire could actually flourish. That's the irony of it. That's the oddity of it. Garino, if Moyes brings in Ward-Prowse, Maguire, and with rumours of a new deal for Souček, we will see Moyes hoofball 0.3. That I don't disagree with. I think we will. Whoever he brings in, I think we've seen a glimpse of what it's going to be like next season, especially in the game against Bayer Leverkusen. We know what's going to happen next season. It's going to be backs against the walls again. Is it going to be pleasant? Absolutely not. It will not be fun. Let's not kid ourselves. We're not going to see flair football, even if we do get other players that apart from the ones that we're linked to. It seems really, really strange. Damien, good night, all. Happy days. Thank you, Damien. Thank you for joining. You're leaving early. Just announced McTominay just announced on TalkSport that it's been on Sky Sport. Oh no, TalkSport, that it's been rejected. So there you go. But that doesn't stop the Maguire bid going in. Who else have we got? Let's go scroll down. Montana. How much will it cost to sack Moyes? £3 million. Sullivan was getting on my nerves with this dithering. Yeah, it'll be about 3 million. to let him go. Why would West Ham, Malcolm, want to spend 60 million on 2 Man United reserves? Because the manager sees something in them. Even if we don't. I'm not saying it's right. Don't get me wrong. Lee, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Philip, Moyes must be aware of the absolute negative comments about him from the vast majority of us. I don't doubt he does. Does he care? No. Jeremy, United turned down the bid for Harry Maguire. So it looks like, well, have they turned down both bids, or have they turned down one bid for McTominay but not for Maguire? Who will pick our replacement coaches, Mr. Moyes or Tim Steiden? That's a really good question, Alison. I would imagine at this point in time, it'd be Moyes, but there's no rumour at all about any other coach joining at this moment in time. Schmeigel, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Adrian, Maguire cost Man United another goal this weekend. It's shocking that we're linked to him, let alone have made multiple moves for him. Victor, to be fair, Jonathan Tah didn't have to do much against us. We were poor. Good point. Garino, I think there'll maybe something in the Moyes rumours. Are we still not, we're still not seeing any new coaches come in? It could be, but I have been told tonight that, the rumours are untrue. Sullivan won't sack Moyes before the start of the season. Hammer Mikey, good evening to you, mate. McTominay, dear God, next level. We know what has happened here. Sullivan has said to Stein in a saggy ball face, you can pick one player of your choice and you can pick one of your choice. I don't know. Good evening to you, Irons. We love top lad. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Drain Hole Hammers. Good evening to you. Why would we go for Slaphead? We're not looking like at the likes of Leverkusen centre back. We need some pace in our defence. That's a good shout. We do need a bit of pace. Peacads, good evening to you. After Allaire and Scamacca, West Ham should never buy another striker again. Well, not whilst Moyes is there. Good evening to you, Raz. With Scamacca leaving, we should now look for a replacement. I like Jonathan David, who I think will be good. I like Jonathan David too, but I don't think Moyes is going to go for another overseas striker. You are. Good evening to you. Darmashet says, West Ham deciding whether to go back in with an improved offer for McTominay or focus on other targets. He understood that they hadn't given up on pursuing. Good grief. How much do we have to spend or how much do we have to offer before? Well, they want 45 million for McTominay. We're not doing that. If we haven't got in 40 million for Ward-Prowse and 45 million for Gallagher, I don't think we're going to go in for that much for McTominay. Chicorino, German striker coming in. News should break according to the IDK on KUMB or another one on WHO. That'll be interesting. Another German striker. Is his name Allaire by any chance? Downey 8, good evening to you. Having watched Maguire for England and Man U, I can't think of a worse player to sign. Sean, good evening to you. Thank you for joining. Ryan Pope. Danny Murphy said McTominay. Okay, so we turned a bid down for McTominay, but not necessarily for Maguire, is what I'm understanding. Juha, I'm glad Moyes might get players in that suits his style, so might be a better season. The mistake was already made keeping him for the last year of his contract. A lot of people are saying much the same thing. Schmeigel, I will reserve my judgment on Alvarez, but I have a bad feeling Moyes only signed him due to his goals from set pieces. For some, he only scored 3 last season. That's one less than Declan. For some reason, they might enjoy this style of play, but it's not for me. Malcolm, McTominay is a clone of Souček, just gets booked more. I think he's got a better engine than Souček, to be honest with you. I think he has. Right, I'll tell you what. Let's go into the transfer side of the show. Look, I've already mentioned it, haven't I? Gianluca Scamacca, I said it earlier on at the beginning of the show, was never a right fit for West Ham United. We waited 18 months to get another striker in after Sebastian Allaire, and we found ourselves in exactly the same place as we were 18 months ago, with 33-year-old Mikel Antonio set to lead the line for yet another season. It's sad. I don't blame Scamacca. Like I said at the start of the show, Scamacca came in. I looked at the scouting reports, etc., and kept thinking to myself, it's another Allaire. I don't know what this player is going to do differently that Allaire didn't try to do. And I don't know if he's going to succeed, and I don't know what happened to the scouting system about this. I don't know what it is they saw in Scamacca that they thought he was going to be an Antonio type of player, because he certainly was. Look, we know what's going to happen this season. People have been alluding to it in the chat. It's going to be another hoofball season without a shadow of a doubt. We're going to sort of defend as much as we can, get it up to Antonio, hope he holds it up, and getting other players involved. It's not going to work, but let's see what happens. Look, apparently we're interested in Solanke, but like I said earlier on as well, why would Bournemouth want to sell their striker to West Ham United just before the start of the season or before the end of the transfer window? I can't see that happening. Will Solanke be a better player to suit the needs of the way Moyes plays? I'm not so sure, to be quite honest with you. I think the days are gone of that, the kind of player that David Moyes wants. I don't really know of that many players that will come in and do that kind of job anymore. That's not the way modern football is being played, and it's a shame, because it looks like, if we don't get an Antonio clone. I remember saying this a year and a half ago when Hilaire left. If you don't get an Antonio clone, you're not gonna do well under Moyes' style of play. Look, I said it earlier. A £22.5 million fee plus something like 4.6 million in add-ons for Scamacca going to Atalanta, plus a 10% sell-on fee. We bought him for 30 million plus 5 million add-ons. So we could end up losing 6 or 7 million on that deal. Not great. What about the advertisement last week? We heard. It felt like an age ago. I remember while I was away, I was sent a message saying, "Have you seen this?" I've seen what? Oh, we're advertising for footballers in a football transfers app, and I thought it was a joke. I thought someone was winding me up, and then I sort of looked into it, etc., and then bang, it's true. We did advertise for footballers in this football transfers app. Now, I originally thought, like probably an awful lot of you, what on earth is going on here? Have we become that desperate to actually start advertising for footballers? And then when we started to look at some context behind it, apparently a lot of clubs do it. There's an awful lot of clubs around Europe that do the same thing. And apparently it's been bought in by Steiden. All of a sudden you start thinking a little bit different about it. Is this desperate or is this the new way to go? Who knows? It's interesting. I didn't like it, to be quite honest with you. I did think it smacked of desperation, especially with the state of the club that's in at the moment. Not signing anyone. It felt desperate, didn't it? But apparently it's the sort of thing that happens. Now, we advertise for 7 players, apparently. 2 central midfielders, a left winger, a left back, a striker, etc., etc. So we could have seen, look, if we needed a left winger, why the hell didn't we go for Borges when that deal was available? Striker, that would have been absolute a red alert that Scamacca was definitely going, because it came up. When did it come up? Was it Friday? I think it was Friday that the news of this advert came out. So that was a red alert that Scamacca was going. It's interesting that we're looking for a left back, because Aaron Cresswell looks like he's definitely going as well. And let's talk about the missing Cresswell, because it's unlike him, isn't it? This isn't the Aaron Cresswell that we know. Someone that will go AWOL. I've been told tonight that he's making himself unavailable for selection, which by other people's calculation means he's on strike. Look, he's bought a new home up north, up in Merseyside, I believe, where he's from. And we can only speculate what's going on behind the scenes. Let's not forget, we had a very similar situation with Craig Dawson this time last summer, where Dawson wanted to leave. Moyes persuaded him to stay. He said, until I get a replacement for you, I want you to stay. And we kept him until January. We didn't get a replacement. But maybe the same thing has been promised to Cresswell. Maybe he was told, look, come the summer, Aaron, we will let you go when we get a replacement. But we're not getting a replacement, are we? The Wolves deal has fallen through. Apparently it was a £2.5 million deal. I don't know what happened there. Surely we weren't holding out for £5 million for Aaron Cresswell, who we only bought for 3.65 million in 9 years ago. But it's odd. It's a bit weird that it's happening. Now, apparently Forest are interested in the player. Let's see if that materializes as well. But it looks like it's quite possible that if we don't get a replacement for Aaron Cresswell, he may go nowhere until we do. It may be one of these situations where he might be forced to have to play. Not pleasant, eh? Not pleasant for the player, not pleasant for the morale of the club. How are people feeling about that? It's all really rather odd. Now, Edson Alvarez, I suppose there's a little bit of good news that the Alvarez deal is close. Now, let's get this correct. It is not already done. Okay. Alvarez only arrived back from Mexico, I think, this morning. So he's quite likely to be jet lagged. I guess he lives in the Netherlands. That's where he plays his football. And he should be, if he's not already done so, he should be back in. He should be in England tonight sometime, if not already, with possibly the medical happening, I would think, tomorrow on Tuesday. And then, of course, we go through 2 stages of medicals these days, et cetera, et cetera. And then all the last niggly bits and so on and so forth. We've agreed a 32-odd million pound deal with Ajax. We've agreed terms with the player. Now, here's an interesting one. He earns £33,000 a week at Ajax. There are rumours that he's going to be earning £148,000 a week at West Ham. I'm not so sure it's going to be that high. Does it really matter how much he's going to earn? He's certainly going to earn a lot more than he will be at Ajax. But apparently, personal deal's been done with the player, etc. He's happy with that. Ajax have agreed the deal of 32 million, and he's on his way. Good. He's a decent player. Good, proper defensive midfielder. And I said a couple of weeks ago, if there's one thing that we do need in order to free up our attacking midfielders, the rest of our midfield, our front line, etc., we need a holding midfield, a proper holding midfielder. And Alvarez is that. Look, I mentioned last week that Youssouf Fofana would be a great addition because he will be that defense in front of the back four, and Alvarez is much the same. He'll do a very, very similar job. Look, for me, I think Fofana is the better player. But it's not that doesn't mean that Alvarez is a poor substitute for Fofana. I think Alvarez can hold his own. He's a feisty player. Apparently, the fans at Ajax call him the Beast. They think a lot of him. Now, what's interesting, there was a podcast with a Dutch podcast talking about that. I can't remember the name of it. I forgot to write it down. But there was apparently a Dutch podcast talking about the player and suggesting that he's pretty average, and that the money that we bid for him is not worth the money, etc. But then when you talk to Ajax fans and when you read story, there's a guy I can't remember his name, a guy that does scouting on Twitter. He sort of got views of Ajax fans, and they said he's a great little player, deserves his chance to come to a bigger league, etc. And they think he's really good. He's the heartbeat of the Mexican team that won the Gold Cup just recently, a proper central defensive midfielder, which can make a huge difference for the way we play our game. We are apparently still interested in Fofana, but that's gone very, very quiet, as I said earlier on in the show. But my fear right now is getting this Alvarez deal over the line, because he could have his medical and everything could be agreed. But until he signs that contract, he's not a West Ham player. And as I said last week, the bit like what happened with Borges, we kind of agreed a fee and all that sort of stuff. And Ajax came in because he hadn't signed anything with West Ham United. He was still free to go elsewhere. And that's what happened. I don't want that to happen with Alvarez. I think it'd be absolutely dreadful if anything like that happened. But from what I understand, he is due to come to West Ham. Now, for £33 million or £32 million, given that we sold Declan Rice for 105, is Alvarez a third of the player that Declan Rice is or was at West Ham? Well, let's have a look at the stats. Look, number of games played, fairly similar. Ball recoveries, Declan Rice was marginally better, was a bit better. Possession lost, Alvarez is better. He keeps hold of the ball better. With regards to pass attempts, Alvarez again comes on top. Goals scored, Rice got 1 goal more than Alvarez did. So passes attempted, much better from Alvarez. Passes completed, much better from Alvarez. Pass accuracy, much better from Alvarez. Tackles made, Declan Rice is a little bit better. Take on success, Rice. Aerial duels, ground duels, etc. Rice is better. But Rice wanted to be that more forward-thinking midfielder, didn't he? Where Alvarez wanted to sit back, and defend. And things like clearances, Alvarez is better. With interceptions and blocks, Declan Rice was better. Look, he's not going to be a Declan Rice direct replacement. Everyone has said already you can't replace Declan Rice, but he's not that bad, And I know people are going to say, "Well, hang on a minute, those stats were in the Dutch league, and this Declan Rice did it in the Premier League." But then you're confirming what Moyes wants. He wants Premier League proven players. I don't think the stats are that bad, to be quite honest with you. Things like pass attempts, pass accuracy, clearances, and etc. You could see that he's a player that can be quite useful for West Ham. And I think for 32 million, all these central defensive midfielders we're being quoted for are more 35, 40, 45, etc., etc. So Alvarez for 30 million, 32 million might not be a bad deal at all. The trouble is, let's get it over the line and let's get it done with. Right, let's go into, obviously, the double bid. 30 for the Maguire and McTominay, as people have been saying tonight. Apparently, the bids have been turned down, etc. Look, Maguire's salary has gone up to 180 grand a week because Man United are now in Champions League. Now, he was on, I think, about 160 before that. But as people alluded to, apparently we're looking at offering him something like £100,000 a week. What I think will happen here is much the same as what we were trying to do, or what Moyes was trying to do with Lingard last summer, where offering him a base rate salary, I don't know what it was, 110,000 a week or something like that. And then with appearances and bonuses, etc., it will go up. And I think probably what we're going to do with Maguire is offer something similar. Offer a base rate of 100 grand a week. It's like fucking talking about monopoly money. But anyway, offering him something like 100 grand a week, and then with appearances, successes, etc. I guess if we get a win, it'll be an extra, I don't know, I'm guessing, and 20 grand if we get draw, 10 grand and stuff like that if he plays. So I think we'll find a way of getting him to as near as 180 grand a week as possible, but it won't be consistent. There'll be a base of about 100 grand a week. Will he accept it? Don't know. Look, my theory, I said I was going to talk about this earlier on. My theory on Maguire is, I know he's been poor at Man United. There's no denying it. Absolutely no denying it. You could see people mention, he made another mistake, which led to a goal, etc. But I think maybe, just maybe under David Moyes, it might be better suited to him. He is an experienced centre-back. He is still an England international. I know he won't be a lot of fans' favourite choice, but when it comes to sort of just telling him to defend, etc., he might be better than he is at Man United. Well, why do I think that? I don't know. I think maybe more because of the way David Moyes plays his football, the style of football might suit McTominay more. There's rumour that we might also play three at the back, and I can see that happening as well with McTominay, Zuma, and the other one who playing three at the back and then playing wing backs. I think that could happen as well. But also people alluded to Zuma. Tell me, since he's joined West Ham United, he's missed so many minutes of football because of injury after injury. He doesn't get one injury a season. He gets 2 or 3 injuries sometimes, that keeps him out. Maguire coming in, it makes a lot of sense in that perspective. A solid defender with Premier League experience. If Zuma's out, Agurd is the other one, of course. If Zuma's out, and then you can see Maguire lining up alongside Agurd. I can see why Moyes wants it. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but I can see the logic in why Moyes wants Maguire. McTominay, look, again, not my first choice, but one thing that we need in the centre of midfield, which we are lacking, is an engine. We've got, if we get Alvarez in alongside Paqueta, and then someone like McTominay who's got an engine on him, I know, again, he plays differently to the way for Man United to the way he does for Scotland. If you talk about how he plays for Scotland, they'll tell you fantastic, scores goals, gets something down the pitch, etc., a great engine on him, and I can see the benefits in getting him. Look, at 26 years of age, he's kind of the right age as well. Alvarez is 25. He's 26. It won't be so bad. It would almost compensate for the likes of someone like Maguire coming in at the age of 30. But I do admit, this time next season, next summer, when Moyes is gone, the new manager, the new coach is going to have a problem on his hands, because if he sort of inherits all these players that he doesn't want, then how's he going to move them on? We might have to take losses on players like Maguire, maybe McTominay, etc., etc. Now, Man United think he's worth £45 million, McTominay. We're not going to pay that, and we will move on to other targets. And what we've done is, like I said earlier on in the show, we've gone for bids. We've put in bids. We've gone as high as we believe is right, but we won't go any further, and we move on. The trouble is, how much more do we move on? Do I want Maguire and McTominay? They wouldn't be my first choice. Neither of them would. Do I think they could do a job? Yes, I do. I think they could both do a decent job. It won't be glamorous. It won't be fantastic. It won't be, thrilling or anything like that. But in terms of doing a job for West Ham United, yes, they can. Both of them can. Do I want them? Not necessarily. Yeah, people have talked about Tar, coming from Bayer Leverkusen. Let's talk about Hardwood Bellis, the young centre-back that plays for Man City, or the reserves for Man City. 21 years of age. He's the future. Would Moyes think that he could do a job if someone like Zuma got injured? He probably doesn't. So I get the logic. Do I agree with it? Not necessarily, but I get the logic. Different style of play, might suit Maguire much more. Could play in a back three, could play in a back two. If Zuma gets injured, you'll have an experienced player coming in to play alongside a good. I get it. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I get it. McTominay, I also get a good engine on him. He does get up and down that pitch. He would add a little bit of zest into our midfield. And with someone like Alvarez just behind, and then having the likes of McTominay and Paqueta in the middle, you got a different feel to that midfield. Do I agree with it? Not necessarily, but I get why Moyes wants to go for these players. Now, it could be that we are going for Alvarez and Fofana. That would be very, very interesting. Imagine having a back four and then Fofana and Alvarez as that solid midfield too. That won't be very exciting, by the way. Fofana's got an engine on him as well, but he's not a kind of like a box-to-box midfielder in the same vein as someone like McTominay. But he'd be absolutely dynamite and solid, but that will make us even more, it'd be great, but it'll make us even more a boring team. It'll be like literally a back four, that midfield two, totally not going any further forward than the centre line. And then you're going to have to leave it to your attacking players to do their business. So I can see why Moyes is thinking of someone like McTominay. Would I prefer McTominay to Ward-Prowse? Well, there's a difference here, isn't there? Because Ward-Prowse will have that set piece array. He'll get goals for us on set pieces. Corners, free kicks, etc., etc. You can see that he'll get goals. McTominay may not necessarily get as many goals, but he'll have an engine on him. So they offer something slightly different. So I don't think it's going to be Maguire, McTominay, and Ward-Prowse. I think it's going to be Maguire, McTominay, if we can get the right deal. If Man United insist on 45 million for McTominay, we're not going there, quite clearly. Right, let's see what you've got in your chat. How far behind am I? Quite a bit. So let's try and catch up as quickly as I can. It's me, Sam. Good evening, Sam. Delighted to hear both bids for Maguire and McTominay have been rejected. Lawrence, this is all Sully's fault for allowing Moyes to stay on. Well, Sullivan, all this stuff, all these rumors, I said this last week as well, all these rumors coming out are not helping anyone, are they really? And apparently they're coming from, I don't know, the likes of Sullivan, the coaches, who knows? But it ought to stop, because that doesn't help. And if it's coming from Sullivan, Sullivan's in charge. Sort it out, mate. Maybe he has had that chat with Moyes and Steiden and said, let's work closer together. Apparently the dinner last week that they were all at, the Road to Victory dinner, apparently Moyes and Sullivan and Steiden were talking quite freely, quite openly, etc. Didn't look like there was any fisticuffs. Refunk, good evening to you. I'd rather we sign a decent young player rather than motley crew or other clubs' cast-offs. I agree. Andrew. Danny Murphy takes a sting out of death, one of the pundits. No other team exists outside the top six in his world. Don't listen to much what he says anyway. Hammers Mikey. Moyes will do the same with Mbama, having him up front on his own, trying to do the Antonio role, which he cannot do. Then he will get dropped down the pecking order and eventually sold. Moyes to blame. I would feel sorry for Mbama. If there's anyone close enough to Antonio in running, all night for a ball, it is someone like Mbama, but he doesn't yet have the experience. I did suggest I thought Mbama would go out on loan. Doesn't look like he will now, but he'll be in the firing line. I'm not so sure that's going to be good for him. Lincoln, 60 mil on McTominay and Maguire would be better spent on Fofana. I agree. Fofana's only 35 million. He's not 60 mil. He's in the last year of his contract at Monaco, and I know other clubs have bid for him. But I think what they're trying to do is get a bidding war going for Fofana as well, because he is in the last year of his contract. But no one's going above 35 million. So it would not surprise me. Do I think it's right having Alvarez and Fofana? Probably not, because they're very, very similar players. It should be one or the other. Would I take them both? Sure, I will. Of course I will, because I think it will make us more solid defensively, but it'll probably make us a little bit more boring as well. Sean, we need to be new, fresh West Ham with young, hungry, talented players. We need to move forward for the future of the club. Don't disagree. Totally agree. 100%. P4R Och, good evening to you. Fofana and Tar for 60 mil. Good shout. Yeah. If you're going to spend 60 mil on Maguire and McTominay, why not go in for 60 mil bids for Fofana? In fact, it'll be even cheaper. Fofana's around 35 mil and Tar's only about 20. So there you go, even cheaper. Huge, good evening to you. Solanke is a conference player. Yeah, I'm not, no. I agree. Martin, personally, I think Moyes can be relied on to turn a good player into a bad player. That I don't disagree with, to be honest. We've seen it happen, haven't we? Drainhole, Sean Edwards, I'm with you, mate. What does Sean say? Fofana. Young, hungry players that will bite your arm off for an opportunity. Agreed. Robert, I hear Celtic have an interest in Antonio. That will force us to sell him, and I don't necessarily mind. I kind of said a few weeks ago, I don't really want to start the season with having to rely on Mikel Antonio yet again. And unfortunately, at this moment in time, that's what it looks like. Unless we've got something amazing up our sleeves, which I can't see at the moment, we've got Antonio. So if Celtic are interested in him, let him go. Schmeichel. But then we do have to sign a striker. Schmeichel. West Ham should sign 16-year-old Estevao Willian from Palmeiras, who will go on to be one of the best players in the world, in my opinion. You're probably absolutely right. However, at this moment in time, that won't be our priority, which is probably why we ended up the Borges deal, sliding through, which is a shame, because I think Borges would have given us something in the first team right now. But good shout. Montana. Now all the outrage the fan clubs had for Antonio when he commented on YouTube about Scamacca, where are they now? Yeah, it's a good point. I don't think it was right for what he did, but I think I said at the time, and I think a lot of people said at the time, it's not what he said, it's when he said it and how he said it. He said it just before the final of the Europa Conference League, almost as if to say, look, mate, I'm going to start. You ain't, even if you're fit now. And I just think it was the wrong time. We knew this. We already knew what Antonio had said is true, but it was just the nature of it and the timing of it, I think, was wrong. And really, in all honesty, it's not his place to be speaking out about other teammates, to be honest. It's evidence, we knew this, that when Scamacca started, that Antonio's nose was put out of joint. You could see it. He was really unhappy about it. I remember him saying last Christmas or January, whatever, saying, I'm not happy. I've got to fight for my place back, etc. Or even earlier than that, talking about fighting for his place back. I'm not happy. I want to fight for my place back. And that's when Scamacca was actually doing reasonably well. But then it all went pear-shaped, didn't it? Mr. Doofus, good evening to you. McJock, Slabhead, and Ward Prowse shows a lack of ambition. Let's go balls out for Fofana, Tar, and Bellis. Bellis, a great young prospect, probably ready to show that he's capable of doing a job at a Premier League football club. But unfortunately, I agree with you. Fofana, Tar, Bellis. I'd take Alvarez right now. I'd take Tar. Yeah, I'll take Bellis as well. Harwood Bellis as well. Peter. That buyer game has just been released as a video. Nasty. Lincoln, Fofana is class. Just pay the 60 mil West Ham. Doing my head in. In fact, it's not 60. You know, there is no bidding war for him at the moment. At the moment, I think the highest bid is only 30 to 35 million pounds. Hammers Mikey. We haven't even got cover for Bowen, but we know Moyes will shift Fornals out there if it came to it. Yeah, he's probably thinking of Cornet as well, maybe. But then if he's got Cornet out there, who's he going to have on the left side? Actually, that's another point. Someone mentioned it last week. Cornet, I think it was Hammerette. Cornet has played at left back. Maybe if we let Creswell go and don't get a left back, maybe he'll put Cornet there as cover. As a wing back, maybe. He's done it before. He did it for a season or two when he was at the French club he played at. So maybe that will happen. Hammer it. The scoreline doesn't really matter in the friendlies, granted, but we had no shape. We were tired and awful. Totally agree. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Thank you so much, Sharky. Really, I do appreciate it. And I hope I've answered. Probably when you gave me that donation, I may have already answered Creswell. I said it already. Creswell, he's gone. It looks like he's gone on strike. And at this moment in time, I guess he won't leave until we actually get a replacement for him. Or maybe Cornet could play there. But thank you, Sharky. Much appreciated. Sean, forget these washed out Man United players and move on. Who else we got? Bowen would be sold next summer, Lord Patrick. I don't disagree with that. If things don't change, you know, he could be another player gone. And another player that could be gone is Paqueta as well. You know, what we want to try and do is build around these players. These are now our better players, our best players. You know, we need to build around them and make them confident that we're going to do something better, something different. P4, Man United should sell cheaper as they're not even using these players. Not I want them, but the asking price is a joke. Well, it is a joke. But like all clubs, you know, you want to get as much money as you can for your players. But I agree with you. You know, I think 60 million, if they don't agree, we should just walk away and look for other targets. But we're running out of time. We're running out of time. We've got like 3 weeks to go now. All right, okay, the league starts on Saturday, but we've only got another couple of weeks after that before the window shuts. Well, apparently we're going on a splurge, on a shopping splurge. You know, we're going to get anything up to 6 players. I don't believe that for a minute, to be quite honest with you. I think what we'll do, and I said it right at the start of the transfer window, at this moment in time, I don't see us getting any more than 3 players through the door at this moment in time. Now that Scamacca's left, I think we do need a replacement, but Moyes may decide to use other players in that area, like Cornet, like Bowen, etc. You know, but I think now that's gone from 3 players to 4 players that we need. If Creswell goes, that's 5 players that we need. We need a centre-back, a left-back, 2 midfielders, and a striker. Will we get them all? I do not know. I do not know. Hand tip. What happened to the young centre-back at Man City? Harwood Bellis, the lad with the double-barreled name. Yeah, nothing. Nothing's materialised from that. Hopefully, we might be surprised and all of a sudden we're signing him alongside Alvarez. Huge. Winning the Europa Conference was supposed to be a springboard for us to get young, talented and quick and hungry players, but no one told Moyes. And this has been the problem, hasn't it? The problem is, you know, I think I said this at the beginning of the transfer window as well. So do forgive me for repeating myself. Moyes maybe in his head thinks I've got a decent enough squad for Europa League next season. But what I need is a better squad for Premier League, which is probably why he's gone for all these Premier League proven players. Do I believe that? No, I don't. But I think maybe that's what Moyes is thinking. Graham, good evening to you. Back to blood, sweat and no fear players. It is then still. I think that's what's going to happen. It isn't going to be pleasant. It is going to be blood, sweat, and no fear players. You know, he's not replaced Craig Dawson, for example, who's been, it was a sensation for us. Maybe he's thinking that Maguire is a more expensive version of Dawson. Maybe that's why he wants him. You're absolutely right. You know, we haven't replaced those sorts of blood, sweat, and tears sort of players. And maybe he's thinking Maguire, someone like McTominay, are those, you know, gutsy sort of players. Are they pleasant to watch? No. Will they do a job? Probably. Will we be happy? Probably not. But what Moyes is thinking is, It's how to get through next season. Is that right? Absolutely not. It's not right. You've got to get through the next season, but you've also got to have one eye on the future. So it's a balance, isn't there? John Paul, good evening to you. Evening, everyone. If you're saying, let's see how it goes in the Premier League. If you are saying, let's see how he goes in the Premier League, first few games. Yeah, first few games are going to be absolutely crucial. We've got Bournemouth away. We won last season 4-0. Will we get anything like that sort of result? I'll be delighted if we got a win. And then we got Chelsea at home. That ain't going to be easy. They've gone through a renaissance. You know, I was away at the weekend. I was with friends who are Spurs fans and Chelsea fans. And I was talking to my mate who supports Chelsea. He said they've cleared the decks. They've gotten rid of something like 17 odd players. I had no idea. They got rid of something like 17 odd. I said, how do you feel about that? He said it was about time. We needed to get rid of all these players, get fresh blood in. You know, Pochettino's brought in almost a new team. You know, he doesn't have any fear. He's going to have the problem that we had, you know, apparently betting in all these players. But Pochettino's going for it. Look, like I said, this summer transfer window is not a revolution. We had the revolution last summer when we got 8 players in. We only need, at this moment in time, with Scamacca gone, we need 4 players in. That's not a revolution. You could easily bed in 4 players, whether they're Premier League or not. Jonathan, good evening to you. We're losing all our flair players. Rice, Scamacca, Lanzini, Vlasic, Paqueta. I'm not worried about Vlasic. By the way, Vlasic is all gone as well. Bowen, Paqueta, etc. Alvarez is a great, but not skilled. I agree. And all the Man U boys, but Bullet, yeah, they are. This is it. As someone I just said, blood, sweat, and tears sorts of players, etc. You know, Lanzini gone. You're absolutely right. Really good point. Vlasic, it didn't do great shakes, but he's gone as well. 10 million to back to Torino, so farewell to him as well. Paqueta and Bowen are the players I'm worried about. You know, the transfer window's still open. You know, are they going to? Are they looking for a push to go? You know, Paqueta or Bowen. What would happen then if they don't want to stay as well? What would happen then? Sweet FA, good evening to you. I've heard that Moyes won't be with us. Yeah, said this at the beginning of the show. I've been told that's not going to happen. I might be wrong. And I know a lot of people want him gone. But my understanding is that there are no plans. And apparently, according to Sullivan, don't judge him on, as I said earlier on, don't judge him on the pre-season friendly results. Judge him on what happens in the league itself. So let's judge him from next Saturday. Where have you been, madam? Go on, get in. Cats just come home. Lynn, where were you? Right, let's carry on. Sorry about that. Mr. Duff, Mr. Doofus. Alvarez is a defensive midfielder. She was outside again. Alvarez is a defensive midfielder. Fofana is box to box. Well, Fofana is classed as a defensive midfielder as well, but he does have an engine on him as well. You know, I'd like Fofana to come. I'd like Alvarez and Fofana, but they're kind of more defensive minded. Both of them are. Who else we got? Good evening, Cyber. How are you? Bowen up close today and he stopped. I hope you said hello to him. Garino. We're looking at Sangara and he's keen to come. Are we? That's news to me, but that will be fantastic news if that's true. Doubts if West Ham will get him and Alvarez, or if it will be Alvarez or Sangara. Look, Sangara is another defensive midfielder, but very good player. Very good player. You know, I don't mind any of these players coming. Someone's just said Fofana is a box-to-box. He's more a defensive midfielder. But these players would improve us. But how many defensive-minded midfielders do we need? Moyes, V9. Moyes has created the betting in period myth. No other club does that. Totally agree. John, I do agree. John Paul, let's see how he gets on because we have a really hard start with Bournemouth, Chelsea, Brighton, Liverpool, and I think Arsenal in our first 10. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they are part of the first 10, yeah. Hontip, I see Everton have signed Ngotto. I don't think we were after him in the first place, to be honest. Victor, there is talk of unrest in the dressing room. Players don't like the style of football. They're asked to play under Moyes. This was going on last season, wasn't it, Victor? It's the same story that we heard last season as well. So I think that's true. I think my understanding is that Bowen and Paqueta aren't enamored with this type of football that we play. You know, they want it to be a bit more sort of open, etc. Not so much to the point of, going out there and being wide up. But look, we go out defensively and we still get beat, as with against Bayer Leverkusen. You know, I think what the players want, they want a little bit of to be allowed a bit more freedom. And as I said before, I think by getting in a defensive-minded midfielder will give the likes of Paqueta and other midfielders, etc., Bowen, etc., to get further forward because they know they've got that security, that someone that's sitting in front of the back four. Andrew, this is going to be like the Rio sale all over again. Titi Camara, Rigbert Song. Yeah, we wasted the money, didn't we? We love this. Goes way beyond before Moyes, doesn't it? You know, we love wasting our money when we get decent money for players that have left. What's that? Oh, I've done that one. Thank you. Excuse me, just trying to catch up. Downey. What about choice for captain? The only player now deserves it is Ogbonna, Agerd, or Paqueta. I kind of think Paqueta could rise to the occasion. I said it last week. You're not going to like it, but I don't know, but I think it's quite possible you might see Souček become the captain. Only because, you know, he's captain of his national team. It's quite likely he will be offered, if he hasn't already been offered, a contract extension. And if that happens, you might see him. You won't like it. Take a deep breath, but you might see him become captain of the club. Doofus, Mr. Doofus. Alvarez, Fofana, and Pac-Man midfield. I think I'm getting stiffy. That would be a decent midfield. I don't deny it. Good evening, Bill. There's a break with the entertainment. So managing to get sneaky 5 minutes here in the Canaries. I hope you're well, mate, and thanks for joining and watching. Breaking the entertainment. What are you watching? Something over there. I hope it's good. Jose, good evening to you. NGL, excited to see my namesake coming in. We're excited for him to come in too. If it happens, well, not if it happens. He's due for a medical, I've been told, tomorrow morning. He should be already back in. He'll be back, not back in. He'll be in England if he's not already flown in tonight and due for a medical tomorrow. Let's hope it gets announced. Get out of the way. Get out of the way so we can rest a little bit. Let's scroll down. Gary, how far behind am I? A long way. With Scamacca going, we need a striker. Broha from Chelsea. I'm not a Broha fan. I really am not. You know, for me, like I said earlier on, I think he did decent half a season at Southampton. Fell away in the second half. Big injury last season, as we know. Dean, when we're near the foot of the table at Christmas, I can't for the pundits to tell us Moyes will be exactly the man. I won't deny I said that this time last year. I won't be saying it again this season if that happens. Vinay, Moyes doesn't do social media. 10% of social media is about him. True. Raz, I feel we should try and go after Jonathan David. Scamacca gone. I feel David could shine here. Will he, though? I just don't know. I don't know what striker can play the Moyes system. I really, really don't know. You're going to have to forgive me. I'm going to have to scroll down because I didn't realise I was almost quite a fair bit behind on the chat. Gart, my issue with Maguire is he plays left and we need cover for Zuma more than a Gerd. To me, it makes no sense unless we're going with a back three. I think we will play in a back three. And I think Maguire's right-footed, though, isn't he? So he can play on the right side. But that's a good point. That's a good point. Sean, Moyes and Steidham face off over a game of chess. Moyes is white, yet he is to make his first move. Vinay, don't worry still. Could foretell that Borges was going to run a mile after seeing, could tell that Borges was going to run a mile after seeing Moyes. Even your West Ham Oracle could not have predicted it. Thank you for covering me on that, mate. I'm going to scroll down, so do forgive me if I miss quite a few of your comments. Let's go with Urwa. Fabrizio Romano said, Man United rejected a 30 million bid for McTominay. Up to West Ham whether they want to bid again or move on. Right. So that's my understanding. So they've rejected a bid for McTominay, but not necessarily rejected a bid for Maguire at this point. Do correct me if I'm wrong. Kent, good evening to you, mate. Moyes out. Fofana is the boy to buy. First 6 games will tell if Moyes will stay tough. Will stay. Tough games. There's an England break soon after the season starts. Hope he goes. Yeah, that's interesting. I like Fofana. Would I like to see both him and Alvarez? My preference would be for Fana. But if we get both, that'll be great. Can I see both coming in? Not so sure. Flemmer. Is it Moyes so negative in the pitch and off the pitch? When he is gone, I'm sure he will feel different. Hope Bournemouth beat us 7-0. I never hope to be beaten by anyone, just to see a manager gone. If we lose against Bournemouth, whether it be 1-0 or 7-0, the knives will be out. But my understanding is, there's a possibility. I forgot about the international break. It'll be interesting to see how many games are before the international break happens and where we're at and whether Sullivan pulls the trigger then. Good point. Steve, just the thoughts on Maguire and McTominay pissed me off regarding the dinosaur. Kent, is there instrumental to the club development with this negativity way of playing? Is there instrumental? I didn't understand that, mate. Is there, the negativity won't attract players, will it? That's for sure. Miss Smith, good evening to you. Moyes and Steiden faced up in a tiled bathroom in Ilford. Steiden up with margarine. Moyes... Thank you for that. At least it made me laugh. There you go. We're already into the happy hour. Mark, H-Dale, hello, mate. Interesting Alvarez, McTominay, Maguire will give us some backbone we lack. See, there's a logic. Do I want McTominay and Maguire? Not necessarily. Will they add a bit of steel alongside Alvarez? Will they add a bit of steel, a bit of backbone to the team? Yes, I think they probably would. That would be really interesting. Downey. Saying Maguire may suit Moyes' tactics is completely wrong because he can't defend. And what's more scary is that he actually believes he's good enough to advance out of defence. I don't think he'd be asked to do so if he came to West Ham. But yeah, fair play. Jason, after Allaire left still, I said get Watkins. Good shout. People on here moaned at me. How would we would love him now? Yeah, I like Watkins. Yeah, player that we missed out on. Garino. New Chelsea striker and Cuckoo out for a couple of months. So could impact the deal for Broha. I don't want Broha anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you think I'm wrong about that. But I wouldn't have wanted Broha in the first place. Christopher, we waited 18 months to replace Allaire. We did exactly that. Replaced him with the exact same. Someone that never fitted our style of play. Well played, West Ham. Said that earlier on, mate. I totally agree. John, sorry I'm late. The pints were particularly good tonight. Hope you had a good time. You haven't missed much. I see McTominay bid rejected. Where's Alvarez? Solanke, 6 goals a season and still loves Slabhead. Well, look, let's get this in perspective. McTominay bid rejected. Yes, we've heard about that. Alvarez, like I said earlier, should be having his medical in the morning. 6 goals a season for Solanke. I don't think it's the right choice anyway. And as people have been saying, before and against for Maguire, I can kind of see him doing a job for West Ham. Would I want him? Not necessarily. Eddie, Nzola would fit Moyes' system very well. The thing is, with players like that, we've been linked to them, for the past couple of seasons. Not saying it's wrong, but we hear these stories, perpetually. Ekitike from PSG, Nzola, I think we were linked to him last summer. None of these materialise. And what worries me is after Moyes' hands being burnt yet again with a foreign striker, would he go with another foreign striker? I probably don't think he would. Shaky. Dutch journalists have said 39 million euros for Alvarez is a panic buy for a. Yeah, I mentioned this earlier. It was a podcast that they were talking about. They're talking about this and saying it's a panic buy. I'm not so sure. I've shown you the stats. It doesn't look too bad, to be quite honest with you. I think he'll do a job for us. Someone mentioned about having the spine back in the team, a bit of backbone. And I think he'll give us that, to be honest. Schmeigel, I feel bad for Scamacca. People keep saying he didn't suit our style of play, but that's not true. The problem is that Moyes didn't play into his strengths. He would do well at Atalanta. I agree. I think he will do well at Atalanta. Good evening, Razor, sorry. You've got to be kidding still. No way Moyes gets or allowed to bring in 2 Manure rejects. Spending most of Deck's money is a joke. Moyes going on Wednesday. I hope that's true. Look, I've explained why I think it's logical. Do I want them? Not necessarily. I'd rather spend the money in a very different way. But do I see the logic? Yeah, I see the logic. It won't make us happy, but I see the logic. Minnie, good evening to you. If we need an Antonio clone for Moyes, why have we never seriously gone for Briel and Bolo? Would suit Moyes if he's sticking around. Good shout. Good shout. Interesting call. Jason, anyone fancy AVB for manager? If you look what he's actually done, actually did, not a bad manager and still a good age. Could be worse. Yeah, possibly. Christopher, Moyes will be gone after a tough start to the season, hoping the new manager will have some easier games to bed in with his new approach, a bit like Vieira, Hodgson last season at Palace. Vinay, Moyes was spotted with placard on Oxford Street advertising player vacancies. West Ham. Hammers Mikey. We've got left wing players, but not right wing cover. If Bowen gets injured, then there's no one pace on that wing. I think Cornet might be the kind of player that might cover for him, but then that will leave us short on the left side as well. What are we up to? Trying to catch up is what I'm up to. So I'm going to, forgive me, I'm going to scroll down and miss a few comments. Let's see, where are we at? Jason, I want Alvarez to smash right into next week. The little Mexican firecracker, a few yellows incoming in the Premier League. He does have a few yellows. Zan, it doesn't pick up a lot of reds, but it does pick up a lot of yellows. Zan Nicol, good evening to you. Alvarez sadly will be a bust for the money. I'm Canadian and watch the Mexican national team often in CONCACAF. I'm sure he looks special playing in Holland, but so did Anthony. Interesting, and that may be alluding to what some people said about the podcast that was had by some Dutch journalists who's saying that it's a bit of a desperate signing. I hope not. I'd like to see what he's really made of. But I get your point. Good point that you watch Mexican football or the Mexican team more regularly, and you've got a good view on that on the style of play. Schmeigel. Potter isn't as good as some make him out to be. He left Brighton and they got better. Tony Bloom is the main reason behind Brighton's success. All about data-driven stats, how they purchase players. And that's why Tim Steiden is at West Ham United. Scott, Alvarez is a defensive midfielder. Fofana is box-to-box. They complement each other. 32 mil is a bit pricey, but I'd pay 50 for Fofana. Maybe, it's gone quiet on the Fofana thing. Apparently, we're really in for him. It's gone quiet. Who knows? Maybe we get both in. If we get both in, how would people feel then if we actually end up getting Fofana and Alvarez in? That would be quite tasty. Johnny, we didn't get long to enjoy a trophy, did we? Very true. Sorry, state of affairs. I like the sound of the beast, Mad Dog number 2. Mark R. Never liked the buyback clause with Borges and realistically wouldn't get many minutes this season. Good point. Sahel, Fofana is box to box. Alvarez is defensive. A lot of people say that. Now, why have I got it in my head that Fofana is also defensive? Because when I looked at the scouting reports on him, everyone describes him as a defensive midfielder. He's got an engine on him, but everyone describes him as a defensive midfielder. Garino, Alvarez's wages are 100 grand a week. We are linked to Ansu Fati as well. Cue the jokes. Epic, good evening to you. The Borges deal collapsed because Moyes refused to guarantee game time. I don't know if that's true. Apparently, we procrastinated. We missed our chance. Maybe more, and apparently Moyes didn't want him in the first place. So who knows what's true. Hammers Mikey. Hope Ben Johnson has gone. Utter pony and a liability. I'd rather shop at Mannequin take his place. I'd rather a shop Mannequin take his place, to be honest. One of them would be wooden poles to hold your washing line. It's an interesting one, isn't he? Ben Johnson, season before last, was lauded for how decent he was developing. And last season, he had a bad season. There is talk that he will be going, but no one seems to have come in for him yet. Andrew, I hope Alvarez will be a fantastic signing, but the Premier League is a big step up from the Dutch league. Johnny van der Beek was great at Ajax, but struggled at Man United. Got to pray he acclimatizes quickly. Good point. Good point. Sharky, good night to you. Thank you for joining, mate. Much appreciated. Good evening to you, Clive. I hope you're well. Playing darts instead of watching me. Now. Razor. Let Tim get in Fofana, Bellis, and Harwood Bellis. That's 85 mil. Tell me that's better than Maguire and McTominay for 80. I don't disagree. I would rather have Harwood Bellis. I would rather have Fofana in. I don't disagree with that at all. Zan, sign Alex Scott. Well, he's still available, isn't he? Apparently, Bournemouth were looking at signing him, but nothing's. Correct me if I'm wrong, unless I missed it. That they still haven't completed that deal. But I'm not sure that's an area that Moyes needs. He wants these midfielders, but he's not convinced on getting a player like Alex Scott, which is a shame. Get Alex Scott over Maguire and just get some big average defender on loan if you need another centre-back. Maguire will be joke of the year. All my friends who support other teams will tease me all year. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? E. Davis. Moyes is trying to anchor himself to these crap signings. It's holding us hostage. It's happening again, isn't it? A bit like last season when he spent most of last season trying to get Lingard over the line. And now it seems that, he's clinging on to the likes of Maguire, etc., etc. We've wasted enough time on Ward-Prowse, on McTominay, on Maguire. If they do turn both bids down, the combined £60 million deal, then absolutely do move on, but move on pretty fast. Epic. I'll be gutted if we sign either McTominay or Maguire. They're awful. See, I don't think they're awful as individual players. Do I want them? I think there are better players around. But I think, other people have said they add a bit of backbone to the team. Do I want them in the team? I think there are better players around than both of them. But I could see them doing a job, albeit a boring one. We won't be any more exciting to watch, to be quite honest with you. Gary, Solanke would come cheap and has Premier League experience, but would Bournemouth let him go? I don't know how long he's got left on his contract. Maybe he's only got a year left. I'm not so sure. Joan, Maguire insists on playing every game, so it's a back three or a Gerd as a sub. There's no way. I mean, if he does come in, there's no way a Gerd or Zuma are being dropped. And maybe that's what Moyes wants. Maybe he wants a back three. Sean, I think Maguire could be the new Nobles fan favourite, or am I well off? Look what we thought of Craig Dawson. Even I was like, are you absolutely serious that we've just signed Craig Dawson for a couple of mil? He ended up being, a massive fans' favourite. Could it happen with Maguire? It could. It could be an absolute disaster, or it could be a masterstroke. Do I think it'll be a masterstroke? I'm not so sure. Dean, I think you're wrong regarding Fofana. He's a ball carrier in the middle of the park and drives forward. I'm wrong then. But, I'm glad you corrected me. So, Obsidian says the same thing. Box to box, isn't he? Looked like it against Arsenal the other day. If that's the case, then absolutely. Maybe it's gone quiet, like I said, with Fofana. If that's the case, then who knows? Who knows? Maybe we're sort of looking at other players, but maybe we will go back in for Fofana. Maybe what's happening is what quite a lot of people have alluded to. We're trying to please Moyes by going for some of the targets that he wants. But given that they're not coming for one reason or another, then maybe the Steiden links could be, for all we know, by the end of this week, we might have Alvarez and Fofana in West Ham shirts. Wouldn't that be amazing? Aaron, everyone's saying about Ward-Prowse set pieces. These are professional footballers. They're all able to put a dead ball in the box on someone's head. Well, I like to think that we could, but have you been seeing the way we've been crossing the ball from corners, etc., over the last season or so? Been absolutely dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. But we shouldn't just bring in a player just for set pieces. I agree with you on that, Aaron. Garino, still, Monaco wants 60 mil for Fofana. Price may drop later on, but for now it's too expensive. Well, the bids that I understand from what I've read and from what I've been told are around about 35 million. 60 mil is way too much. He's on his last year of his contract, so I doubt very much they're going to get anywhere near that. Will it go down? Maybe. Will it go down to what? 50? I think it'll go down even less, to be quite honest with you. Scott, if we sign Fofana, we can get by with Ings. His interplay with Emerson, Benny and Paqueta is excellent, as are his breaking runs. With Bone on the right and Fofana coming late, there will be goals. Interesting, yeah. Paul, players read up on the behind-the-scenes social media, and when they see 95% of the fans want the manager out, no way do they want to come. It is damaging. We can't deny it. Surely they must see it. They must be wondering what the hell was going on. Do they want to be part of the circus, as people call it? Probably not. Contact, good evening to you. Scamacca going is a damning reflection on Moyes' inability to think of any other way of playing. As for the two Manc lads, no thanks. I agree. I've said quite a bit on Scamacca earlier on, and I totally agree with you. It's a shame because Scamacca will go and do well at Atalanta. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't. Keith, Antonio's comments were dog shit, disrespectful against his own team in the build-up to a big cup game. Antonio can F off. He's not as good as he thinks. I agree with you on that. In fact, I would like to think that Antonio does go somewhere else, but then we will need strikers in. Aram, good evening to you. As a Man United fan, I'm gutted that we've rejected the 2 bids. You would be mad to pay more than 15 mil for Maguire, and McTominay isn't worth more than 30. So thank you for that, Aram. Much appreciated, and welcome to this channel as well. And I agree. I don't think we should go any higher. If Man United want more, then we should absolutely walk away. Peter, Leeds United and Celtic are interested in signing Mikel Antonio. He's open to leaving West Ham. Leeds need a natural striker. So then why are they going for Antonio? Antonio would be a smart acquisition. I hope that happens. And I hope we've got a bloody striker in the pipeline that will walk into this team. But like people are saying, and like I said, will they be able to play to Moyes' style of football? That's the thing. But you know what? If they want him, I'd let him go. Moyes loves him, though. Lincoln, that may be the case still. What I want us for us is to stop messing around, put in a serious bid and just get it done. It's a circus. I hope Alvarez is the trigger. I hope this happens tomorrow. The medical's done and he signs up as a West Ham player. If not tomorrow, by Wednesday at least. And then that's the trigger. John, Jim White on TalkSport, Moyes to quit. Interesting. Is that breaking news? Because, like I said, I know a lot of people have been saying about, and a lot of other channels have been talking about Moyes leaving on Wednesday, being let go. I don't know. If he does, great. I was wrong. But from what I've been told tonight, that's not likely to happen. Hammerette, we have to accept that Moyes is here for now. Whether he will last the season or not, we don't know. But this is all we have. Hope he gets in who he feels will help us perform better and something to hope for. Yeah, whilst he's here, he's got to be backed. Wolf, good evening to you. Alvarez needs to be playing insanely well when he plays for us. He needs to do a 2-man job, as we'll be starting with Souček. Yeah. A lot of people don't want him, but I do feel Souček might end up becoming our captain. Jones, still, what are the new rules this season? Throwing the ball away, yellow card, offside, toe rule, anything else? All I know is apparently we're going to adopt, and I think you saw that from the game yesterday. I think we might be playing any wasted time might be playing add on. I think they had 8 minutes added on in the game between Arsenal and Man City on Sunday. And I think that rule may come in. It's the rule that we had for the World Cup. So any time wasting looks like won't be time wasting anymore. But I don't think there are any other new rules unless anyone else knows differently. What am I up to? Let's try and catch up with you guys. Someone had a question. Wolf, do you prefer dogs or cats? Cats. Got 3 of the bastards, so I've got to prefer cats. Good evening, Mr. Moyes. How are you? Who's going to be in charge when I leave? Doesn't matter, mate, so long as you leave. As I'm taking my mates Billy and Alan away. Good, you do that. Schmeigel, Fofana would be a good signing, but would prefer Kefram Turam. Interesting. Let's not spread the net any wider than it is. Schmeigel, remember people, Moyes signed Fellaini over Thiago. He refused to sign Alvarez because he said he had Antonio instead. Well, if he doesn't have Antonio, who the hell is he going to sign thereafter? David, Gary, me personally, I never supported West Ham to win cups. It was because they were my local team. But if they played Moyes ball in the 70s, I wouldn't have gone again. There you go. We are going to suffer. Look. Let's close the show while I look for more comments to put in. We are going to suffer this season. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be any more exciting than it was last season. To be honest with you, I think it's going to be much the same under Moyes. I think there's going to be a lot of frustration. I think we're going to be going out there trying to not lose games instead of trying to win games. I don't think it's not going to create a great atmosphere. It's not something I'm looking forward to. I'd love to think it'll be different. But, as people have been saying in the chat, if Moyes is going for the type of players he's going, it looks like he's trying to solidify the type of game he wants to play with that backbone, as people said, going for the likes of McTominay, Maguire, etc., etc. It ain't going to be pleasant. Aaron, breaking news, Twitter's saying West Ham are putting an improved bid for the pair and United are likely to accept it. There you go. If that is true. I don't know how much of an improved bid, but goodness me. Oscar Dean, the way Moyes mucks around with signings with his weirdness, I'll be glad if any of that decent player, if we have any half decent players at this point, any left. Graham, Great show. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. I'm down to the bottom. Ryan. Surprised Moyes isn't insisting on Onana after pushing hard last season. Still expecting to wake up one morning and see we have again tried for En-Nesyri. Well, that wouldn't be a surprise at all. Ryan, I think we've done that one, haven't we? Yeah, just done that one. That's it, people. Thank you all for your comments. Thank you all for keeping me on my toes, as usual. The news is Scamacca's gone. Alvarez is hopefully about to sign. A lot of people are saying the same thing about Fofana. So maybe if he is more a box-to-box than what I've seen from all the scouting reports as being a more defensive midfielder, who knows? Because that's all gone a little bit quiet. Apparently, according to Twitter, an improved offer for the two Man United players has been put in. If that's true, listen, we've got to accept what there is. I don't want necessarily Maguire and McTominay, but if they come in, they will improve us. Well, no, they will make us a bit stronger down that with that backbone. Would it be pleasant? Probably not. It'll be a bit more of the same. Look, thank you all for watching. I'm sure I'll be back during the week with some pre-recorded shows. Really, really appreciate all your comments. And I really, really sorry that I couldn't get them all in. Absolutely difficult to do so. So, look, have a great week. Hopefully, Alvarez is about to be signed. Have a great week. Keep you up to date on everything else that's happening. And I'll see you all very, very soon.